My name is Nick B, and let's jump into this week's futures overview. All right, so let's start with the fundamentals for the week, starting with Forex Factory. Monday, we don't have much going on. Tuesday, nothing. Wednesday, we have flash manufacturing PMI at 9:45 a.m. We have unemployment claims at 8:30 a.m. Thursday, and then Friday, we're ending it off with revised consumer sentiment, and then we have Fed Chair Powell speaking, as well as the Jackson Hole Symposium, which are red label events. Okay, now that we've identified what that just really tells me is watch out for Wednesday, Thursday, and possibly Friday swings. There might be some kind of volatility, possibly. We can move on to the charts. As always, we're only taking a look at ES and NQ. Those are the main ones I care for that I'm trading actively more than anything. So let's jump into NQ. We have the chart up on the 2-year daily, and not much has changed in terms of technicals here. We still have the same pivot points of the all-time highs at 16,767. We have, well, the 16K psychological SNR right here that we're watching out for, previous session all-time highs basically. If we can get above 16K, we should have the green flag to head towards the all-time highs. But before we talk about that, because that's a bit of ways away, we have quite a few levels to take over. Again, we still are below 15,265, which was this previous lower high. We need to get above it, make higher highs for price action to be sustainable to the upside. If we fail to get above this pivot level at any point, whether it's this week, next week, whatever, we could definitely see more downside. So again, the big channel that we're really in between in terms of pivot is 15,265 and 13,750. So we could play, the inner channels in between, but strictly, I guess, from a direction point of view, in terms of are we going to go higher? Are we going to go lower? It only depends on if we can retake 15,265 or if we break below 13,750. Everything in between is kind of like treading on eggshells. You kind of have to be careful if you're going to be timing any of the swings between these channels. But here's the breakdown of kind of what I have identified so far. So last week 14.7, and I did mention this a few times over, I was very doubtful that we break or close below 14,700, and here we are. We managed to stay above it. It's still acting as a support. It's a pretty big level here, especially since we rolled over from it from June into July's the third quarter contracts on futures, and we kind of never came down to retest it, and we just continued going higher towards 16K until now. We have this little bit of a meltdown. Now, again, we could have been shorting this move. We did catch a short last week, and again, we could have attempted shorts on the way down. However, again, I did not like the fact that we still had higher lows that we needed to break, such as 14,850 right here. We had also 15,050, which held as a pretty solid SNR level. And, even last week when we came down around the area of 1550, it still held up pretty nice. We even managed to bounce off of it. It was kind of like a bullish engulfing, but false breakout. The bulls weren't able to hold that territory to the upside, and we started selling back down straight towards the next support, which was 14,850, and we caught a pretty nice short below 14,850, targeting 14,700. That was kind of like a guaranteed move. What we're looking for is, can we get above 14,850 again? And that way, we would probably be targeting the 15,050 higher lows. That's a pretty solid first target. You could set a stop of, about 100 points, 150 points, while you're targeting 200 points to the upside. That's not bad. That's not too bad. Um, at least we could make it a 2-to-1 ratio, maybe 100 points, right below. I would put it at 14.7, yeah, and then go long at 14.850. You can target 15.50 easily. But these levels, the previous higher lows, even if we do start climbing back above them, I do want to point out that it's not something that we can confirm that, oh, yeah, green light, we're definitely going to be getting out of there, because on the smaller channel, the channel that we really formed that we're still stuck in between, and you could see how it acts as a clean floor, is really between 14,700 and 15,500. The pivot level of 15,265 is only the chance of giving us maybe confidence to the upside if we can hold it and then eventually break above 15.5. So I'm not going to say we're going to be eager to go long right off the rip here on this possible bounce because you don't have that certainty. Again, we're looking for kind of the most confident, precise play that we could take here. And again, one of them, which I still like, is if we can get above 14,850, I don't see why we can't go back towards 1550, especially since last time when we did get down to 1550, look at us hold this area, retest the breakdown originally, and then we continued going lower. So that would be a perfect target level here. Now, if and when we break above 1550, if you still have longs riding, you could definitely move that take profit towards 15,265. If you don't have any positions open, if and when we break above 1550, I would not go long there. I would probably specifically be waiting for a break of 15.5 to go long. Or even, you know what? I've noticed that intraday 15.350, which is right here, which was the retest of the breakdown that we had. And the initial point that we rejected is, you know what? Now that I think about it, fuck that. You're going long at 15,350, targeting 200 points, and then what? You're risking 100 points to the downside. You can, man. I'm spoiled. That's what it really comes down to. I'm used to when these moves comes. You bang a good 275 to 300, maybe 400 points to the upside or downside. So I'm a little spoiled with that. But actually, that's not a bad idea right here. Getting back breaking above this wick of 15,350 on the intraday, I think that should give price enough gas to at least head over to 15.5. And again, if we can get above 15.5, that gives us a green light to head towards 15.9. Above 15.9, we should catch more momentum towards 16K. And then the question is, do we break above 16K and hold so we can continue towards 16,450? Or do we reject it again and do the same song and dance all over again? The other that's mostly covering the upside. Now, the other side of things is if we start breaking to the downside, and it's simple. I guess if we break below 14.7, I would definitely be in favor of targeting this little channel support of 14,250 basically. That would be a pretty valid target. I would set a stop. Let's see, 14.7, about 150 points to the upside, and then yeah, I would probably set the stop at 14,850 and then be targeting 14,250 easily. That would be probably a nice touchdown there. And then if we bounce off of it, maybe we come back up to 14.7 and then make our way back down towards 13,750. Again, 13,750 is the main pivot that's basically holding up this move to the upside. I would really like us again to get above this point. This is also a very important pivot point, but so far, it doesn't scream scary yet. On top of that, I just want to point out, let's see, where did the VIX close Friday? We could put this on the hourly. Okay, so the VIX closed. We broke above this previous resistance I had at 1733. We got to as high as 1883, came crashing down, I guess, to retest this, fill the gap actually to the upside, fill it. We came down to the support at 1733. Now it's a question of, are we going to attempt to head for the $20 level eventually? And if we do, if we get above it, well, then fearing would, not fearing, but selling would be rightfully so, I think, because that's the natural fear barometer above 20 on VIX. Now, if we do break below 1733 and we start making our way down to this neckline, roughly around the 1550, maybe even the 1450 area, most likely the move to the downside that we saw last week is going to recover into this week. Possibly, possibly. Just got to throw that out there. Now, NQ, I know we just opened as well. I wanted to give price action a little bit of time to develop before we start diving in. Now, on the 1 hour, right, we went from 2-year daily now to the 1 hour. This level right here in particular, 14,850, that's again confirms the higher low that if we can get above it, we can start targeting probably 1550. Yeah, that would be a valid first target. And you could see a little bit better on the hourly why also we're targeting. It's a quite an interesting supply and demand zone on both these higher lows here, here, and then above 1550. It almost looks like 15265 doesn't matter, but again, I only have it up and I really want to kind of just keep it there just because it was that previous lower high. And I mean, at some point, it's going to be an indicator of whether we can go higher or not. Because just for example, here, when we broke out above it, we kind of attempted to go straight for 15.5. We fell short of a few points, about 30 points short, 20 points short. And we came back down to 15.265, and we were chopping a little bit below it. We came down to 15.125, came back up, couldn't get above it. So it definitely has some substance. And like last time, another time, we broke out above it, hung out here, held as a support pretty good, started to break down. False breakout here, came back down again, got above it, went straight for this 15.5 resistance level, formed this bull flag, and started breaking out higher. So it definitely has some history here for sure. And you could see here how we were basically suppressing price with this resistance level. So again, we'll see what we get, but these are the levels I'm watching out for on NQ to the upside and to the downside. Now let's move on to ES. ES, pretty much same story here. I mean, I left the levels up from last week because, again, not much has changed. We know that we've been breaking below the main points of 4,500. We broke below it, and then we started working our way down towards 4410, 4,400 area basically, and below 4,400, 4,370 as the higher low. And again, I find it super interesting that we didn't come down quite to 4325, 4327 area, which is this pivot here, but we managed to come down to the 100-day EMA, which is roughly 43.40, and we closed above the previous higher low of 43.70. That kind of says something. It's either we're about to go for 4400, and I would really like a break of 4410, and then we could target 4500 probably easily for because that's going to be the next resistance to the upside. And then if we break above it, we can target 4550, and then above 4550, 4600 to 4630, which is this level right here, also a pivot point. Again, above 4630, we can start targeting 4700, probably this previous all-time high. Now, if we do start breaking down into this week and we break below 4370 and close below it, we're probably going to come down to 4325, and the big question is going to be, do we break below 4325? If we do, the first target probably to the downside, and outright you can go for shorting, ES down towards 4200. That would be a fair first level. The reason I say 4200 is because if you line up here, right around the areas of it, you have R here, resistance here, here, here. You have a slight resistance here. This is, I guess you got to push. You didn't even retest the breakout. That's why we kind of came back down. If anything, we retested the breakdown over the breakout. Excuse me. You have resistance here, and it acts as a supply zone here. So it's a pretty solid, that would be a pretty solid first target to the downside. Now, it's just a matter of what do we get this week? Are we going to play games between the previous higher lows of 4370, 4400, and 45, also the resistance level of 4500? Because at the moment, really, what we're really stuck between is the main channel of 4325 and 4630. Let's, we're making quite the waves on the daily, on the intraday levels, time frames, such as the hourly and the 4 hour. But what is the big picture still telling us? And I feel like a lot of people kind of get thrown off, with these little midday or weekly swings and kind of forget the big picture because, again, we're still being held up entirely by the move to the upside, both on ES and on NQ. We're holding above 43.25 and we're holding above 13.750 by a mile. 13.750. I mean, the only way, again, we see that is I think if we start breaking down below 14,700, it would probably give us confidence to come down to 14,250, and then below 14,250, I mean, 13,750 is right around the corner. Again, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, as far as fundamentals wise, I mean, for this week, I would say it's kind of muted. I'd rather wait. I mean, we'll see. We'll have to see what the kind of a reaction we get out of the market, and at the same time, price still has to develop here. I mean, it's still Sunday. We have to really see what the open gives us and eventually how we close as well, because that's going to kind of dictate the pace into the week. Other than that, I mean, that's all she wrote. Real quick, I guess we could take a look at TNX. Let me see that. Yeah, TNX below 43.33. I mean, this is the thing with TNX that kind of made me a little nervous. This right here on the daily, on the 2-year daily, almost looks like a cup and handle. Almost looks like a cup and handle, or even you can take a look at this cup and handle right here. Cup handle makes me nervous because if we get above 43.33, what are the odds that asset prices start selling down lower? Then again, you pull this up on the weekly. What is this? The 3-year week, the 3-year weekly. Look at that. It's almost like it's going to be a double top. Maybe we reject back down to the neckline. I mean, again, we don't know. We can only just be aware and attentive of possible patterns and kind of the levels to monitor. And then when we get there, we execute based on what's going on. Real quick, I do want to check up on NQ one more time before we end this video off here. Um, yeah, look at that. Oh, this is interesting too. This almost looks like a bull flag right here with NQ when we squeezed to 16K. Couldn't hold it, came back down, started breaking down. Again, though, we're still being held up but by price action pretty well here. Um, what I wanted to do, if it even makes sense to do this, just because I seen someone map it out. Yeah, no, I'm not gonna do that. I saw somebody map out a trend line and they were saying well, they were showing that it was bouncing off of 14.7, but I don't know how they did it, so let's leave that out. Other than that, that is all she wrote. So again, NQ quick refresh, NQ either below 14.7 and we short down to 14.250, and then we get more confidence probably to come down to 13.750, or we start making a break above our previous higher lows of 14,850 and we can target 15,000. I should probably break this down right here. So we probably get above 14,850, make our way towards 1550, and then yes, the 265 point we would want to get above it. Ultimately, again, if we don't have a position at 15K when we're getting above 1550, I wouldn't really be um, confident in going long because you don't have the certainty that we can even get above 15,265. Now, again, as I mentioned previously, if we can manage to get above 15,350, 15.5 may not be such a bad target, or even if and when we break above 15.5, 15.9 to 16K wouldn't be a bad target. The risk to reward ratio there isn't too bad. And last but not least, again, as a refresher, ES, we're still between 43.27, 43.25, and 46.30. The higher lows that to keep an eye on are 43.70 and 4400, 44.10. I believe if we get a break above 44.10 on ES on the hourly, it's going to give us a green light to go long, targeting 4500 as an upside long. And then if we can get above 4500, again, I'm not so keen on going long and targeting 4550 just because of the intraday levels that sometimes ES can throw out. And I know for a fact 4520 is one of those kind of, I guess, a psychological supply and demand zone, because I've noticed price even in the past hiccup quite a few times around 4520. So if you go long above 4500, again, just keep in mind you don't have that certainty that it's going to be a green light towards 4550. It's probably going to be a slow climb to make its way up there. So if it's probably going to go through 4520 first, 4540 to 4550, and again, even 4550, there's a little wick at 4560, 10 points above that as a little level I don't really talk about, but I'm going to be watching 4560, especially on ES, because last time we wicked above it, it was a retest of the breakdown originally, and similar to kind of like targeting the upside, like I mentioned, the wick on 15,350 on NQ towards 15,500. This would be kind of like similar scenario here. I'm just looking at the wick because that would probably give us the confidence we need to probably continue going higher if again we get a close above that level. So above 4560, I'm definitely targeting 4600 to 4630, and again above 4630 we're probably looking at 4700. And below 4325, if we get to that, if we start breaking below 4370, 4325, we're probably going to come down to 4200. No problems there. Other than that, that's all she wrote. It's just the same song and dance with the same technicals. We just have to be aware of these levels. At least I'll be watching it. And let's have ourselves a good trading week. Cheers.